This is still trending in the news today. Corporate media is avoiding all mention of the Minneapolis massacre shooter being trans and all that entails. This is from the Post-Millennial. Major news outlets avoided or failed to report that the killer who massacred Catholic students at the Annunciation Church and school in Minneapolis on Wednesday identified as transgender. Those included the New York Times, among others. This is a story that is creating kind of a bit of a cultural schism right now. What also broke today was that the Minneapolis school shooter Robin Westman confessed he was tired of being trans and wish I had never been brainwashed myself. So it's a little curious that the media would omit the key fact of her being trans when what appeared to be motivating him was that he wished he had never been brainwashed into being trans in the first place. Reading here from the New York Post. He confessed that he was tired of being trans and wished he had never brainwashed himself in a manifesto posted online before he slaughtered 2 children and wounded 18 more at a Minneapolis church. He said, I only keep the long hair because it's pretty much my last shred of being trans. I'm tired of being trans. I wish I never brainwashed myself. I, too, keep the long hair, but you never know because of, how I like to keep my style. I can't cut my hair now as it would be an embarrassing defeat. I feel the pain. And it might be a concerning change of character that could get me reported. It always just gets in my way. I will probably chop it on the day of the attack. That's why you got to always keep your hair long.
Did.
I regret being trans. I wish I was a girl. I just know I cannot achieve that body with the technology we have today. I also can't afford that. Can't afford a haircut. I like feeling sexy and cute, but my face never matches how I feel. I hate my face. Maybe that's why I like furries so much. You can give yourself a new body and face. I want to be that black face mask on Beyonce's body, Lamau. All right. Well, how do you guys see the developments in this story?
I mean, he was obviously totally tortured, right? Like, he thought that he was a woman, or he wanted to be a woman. He aspired to be a woman, realized that that's not possible. I mean, even referencing the technology today, there will never be a technology that can actually make a man woman, because being a man is something that goes beyond just your genitals or what reconstructive surgery can do. Like, they're never going to be able to make men into women. But he acknowledged that, and he had no recourse. He'd already kind of destroyed his life. And I imagine that's probably
transitioning. Was he on HRT?
I don't know.
Because I only knew about the name change and not the rest of it. Obviously, he had the long hair, but was he medically undergoing that process? We still have yet to find out.
I don't know if that information has been released at all.
Something that I'm really frustrated by is the point scoring, the political point scoring that people have jumped to so quickly before they even knew anything about this case. Like, there was a point minutes, maybe not even an hour after the news broke, that people found out who this was, but it wasn't confirmed.
No.
It was just from a bunch of Twitter accounts, and then people absolutely sunk their claws into this narrative on the right. And I don't want to sound like a fence sitter. I guess I don't care if I sound like a fence sitter, but I also don't want to be misunderstood for saying this. I just have a gut feeling that the trans aspect of this, while it is important to talk about and is not to be discounted for one combination factor in why this happened, it does not explain the whole story. And I don't think this was a politically or ideologically motivated attack. I think it, and this is controversial to say, I just think that this is spiritual in nature.
It's definitely demonic.
And there's definitely something that rings to me like this person was communicating with a group, or maybe a decentralized fragmentation of groups, including ones that I've just heard about in recent weeks, which include 764 and Order of the Nine Angles, 09A. I don't know a lot of details because it's borderline impossible to learn about those groups. And that is by design, that's on purpose because they're so decentralized. There's also Terrorgram, which I believe refers to groups on Telegram that aim to groom and radicalize people, but they're not even radicalizing them into a political ideology. Their aim is toward violence for violence's sake, evil for evil's sake. They aren't really
Chaos.
ideologically. Yeah, they aren't ideological. They're maybe accelerationist, but they don't even know, they don't have an idea of what they're accelerating to. It's just Satanism. Like, they're very expressly Satanist, and the illustration of him looking in the mirror and seeing a demon in his reflection tells me enough that, like, all I need to know about this story. I would rather not learn more.
Well, this gets to the conflict between identity and ideology. And if you can pull up on screen here. So there are obviously a lot of ideological things in the manifesto, pretty spicy opinions about Trump, Israel, Palestine, this sort of thing that made people think, okay, this is a leftist, terrorist, trans person. Glenn Greenwald pointed this out. The shooter also praised Anders Breivik and Brenton Tarrant, anti-Muslim mass shooters, commemorated the murdered wife of white separatist Randy Weaver and Timothy McVeigh, and saying the need to instantly impose a clear ideology is stupid. At the same time, you have what is an unavoidable pattern. This is from Don Trump Jr., pointing out the Denver shooter was trans, the Aberdeen shooter was trans, the Nashville shooter was trans, the Georgia shooter was trans, the Philadelphia shooter was trans, the Uvalde shooter was trans, the Colorado shooter was trans, and now the Minnesota shooter was trans. And so there is, I think, one of the things that you see being pointed out by the Walsh types is that even if there is no clear ideology, there is something in the water with the untouchable nature of the trans identity until just the past really year that you could even talk about it, frankly. And what appears to be a kind of underlying mental instability that tends to disproportionately give rise to these school shootings.
Do you think that that's just trendy, though? And what I mean is, do you think that people that have sort of an outcast personality or an antisocial personality, do you think that they tend to gravitate towards that kind of trans stuff? Or do you think that there's somehow like the trans actually is part of what makes them outcasts?
I think that, so the reason why I think the trans identity is important, and this is actually sort of in line with what Mary's saying, which is that transness itself, I think, is a separation from God, right? Because you're rejecting the way that you were born, the way that God made you. And so it perhaps can portend someone becoming possessed or having satanic thoughts or becoming very nihilistic. So I don't see those two things necessarily as in conflict with one another. In fact, I think they're actually really connected.
So the nihilism I get, right? The feeling like there's no point. And again, this is something I wonder, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Is it the nihilism because they don't feel like they're in the right body and they feel like there was a mistake, or they feel like they should be a woman? Or do they feel like there should be a woman and that's part of why they're nihilists? You know what I mean? The left tends to reject hopeful things. Like when you get to the far left, right? Like they reject things that we consider good. They reject things like family. They reject things that tend to give people meaning. They say, well, there's no meaning. Even religion, like, so most people know I'm not particularly religious, but I understand that religion gives people meaning. It gives people a reason to get up, and it also gives them kind of a North Star. It gives them some kind of objective way to look at the world, as opposed to everything being subjective. If you don't believe in a God, right? If you don't have religion, a religious foundation, then everything is subjective. That means that you have no way to actually judge what is good or bad, or no way to kind of focus your efforts in your life to make your life better. And is that why they're nihilistic, or are they nihilistic because they don't have a focus?
From the former White House press secretary, Jen Psaki, and the Minneapolis mayor, Jacob Frey, when they were attacking the power of prayer, it's like, well, first of all, prayer is not a magic bubble that protects you from like anything bad ever happening to you. That's not the point of it. I mean, to a certain extent, protection, yes, from evil, but isn't it interesting that as religion has declined and religiosity and spirituality have declined in America, that we see mass shootings and school shootings in particular increasing?
Well, this is Elon's point, I think. He made a tweet that woke has stepped into the vacuum of the absence of organized religion. And to your point, I have on screen from the Post-Millennial, attacks on American Christian churches skyrocketed 730% during this exact time period where the T in LGBT really took over.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.